here at downtown Langley's, the Passionate Home. And thank you all for joining us. Today we are going to talk about the amazing paint inlays from Orchid Design. A paint inlay. A paint inlay is basically what it's saying. It's a sheet of paper, a carrier sheet, and it has actual paint on the carrier sheet. So you have the back side, and you want to make sure that the paint side is going to go on your project. The way this one works is if I were to wet this right now, that paint would smear because it's active paint that's just dry, it has not been sealed. So when we put it on our piece, we want to make sure that we are putting it onto a piece that is painted fresh with wet paint. So I'm going to show you that process here. Okay, so I'm just going to get my brush just a wee bit wet. I'm going to dip into some paint here. I'm using the Annie Sloan Old White, and I'm just going to put a fairly generous amount of paint onto my project here. And then I'm going to, oh, I should have just showed cutting it up, but I have some pre-cut. So you can see there's a fairly generous coat. It's not too much. And now I'm going to take a piece of my inlay and I'm going to set it directly into that wet paint. It's going to smooth it on there. I want to make sure that the whole paint inlay part is actually pushed right on into that paint. And then I could take a brayer and roll over that, but I didn't bring one. So once it's on there secure, you're just going to add a little bit of water, and you can see I'm just wetting the paper, the back of that paper, and that's just going to again wet that paint and set it into the wet paint. So I'm just cutting out some more pieces that I'm going to use on my project. So again, just a little bit of fresh paint on here. Laying it in, using my brayer, making sure it's fully into that beautiful wet paint, and then taking some water and making sure it's dampened in. Okay, so we have filled this up. We have let it dry completely, and now it's time to take them off and reveal the paint that's inlaid into that wet paint that we put down before. So again, I'm just going to take some water and gently mist over my already laid in pieces. You can see that water just brightening them up again. And I'm going to take my sponge and just make sure that they're gently, all the bits are covered with some water. Here we go. And it really doesn't take long. And then we can peel and have the reveal. So let's see if we can start here. All right, oh, hang on, big fingers in the way. Look at that, you guys. How beautiful is that? So pretty. So these pieces that we've pulled off, I'm going to show you a little bit later how you can reuse them. So this is amazing. We're going to put that to the side. We're not throwing any of that away, and we're just going to keep doing our reveals here. So we've pulled them all off, and this paint is actually still active. So if I was to take even my finger in some of that water, I can, do you see how I've just smeared that? So that paint is active. So we don't want to go into this right away with anything where we're gonna brush our, unless you wanted to, like you could make this look like watercolor and totally spread those out. That's not the look I'm going for right now. So I'm actually going to take some lacquer and some water, 50-50 mix. And I'm just gonna spritz that over top to set it. I'm just gonna blow dry this first to make sure it's so. This is our Annie Sloan's matte lacquer. We have a matte, we have a gloss. I use the matte because I'm going for that matte chalk paint look at the end as well. So that's what I've chosen. And basically I've poured some of this into my little bottle, and then I've poured the same amount of water into my little bottle. And then I just give it a shake. All right, so good to go. And now I'm just going to give this a light spritz. We've just given this a light misting with our mixture of lacquer and water, 50-50. And now we're just gonna let this dry, and then we'll come back to it and we can then keep playing on top of it and adding water and other colors and whatever we wanna do really. And this is not going to move because we have sealed it. Okay, so our basic inlay is in there. I can now, if this was all I was going to do, I could just come back over and I could wax it, or I could give it a full coat of lacquer, totally up to you. One of the things that I noticed when this, when you put it on in individual sheets, is you can see a little bit of the smoothness where those pieces were, the extra paper on there, that carrier paper. That could just be gently sanded. The whole thing could be gently sanded to give it even more of that chippy old wallpaper look. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come back in now and add some more of my base color and a little bit of another pop of color, just to show how you can still continue to layer, right? So I'm just going to grab some of this white paint, and I'm just going to come right in here, and I'm going over a little bit so it just makes it look even older, coming in there just a wee bit and just creating more texture, and you're not seeing any of those marks anymore. And this is just the look that I'm going for. You can totally give it a quick sand, whatever you want to do there. Here that I've already mixed down with some old white, and it just is this super soft, beautiful color. And now I'm just going to come in with this, pounce a little bit in, and then I'm just going to take a little bit off. So it just becomes another beautiful. Because I pre-sealed my flowers, then I'm not smearing that color. I can go right over top and wipe it back to what I want. Okay, I think it looks beautiful. I love the extra little bit of dimension in here. I am going to let this one dry, and I'm just gonna come over it with my clear wax. Isn't it pretty? Okay, so I told you that we've already pulled off the pieces that we did on our first piece, and these are the ones that we already used, and I'm going to show you that we can use them again. So we're just going to do the exact same thing that we did on that first piece. We are going to lay down our fresh coat of paint here, get it on, and then we are going to lay right into the paint. All right, so oops, fresh paint. We're just going to lay that down just like we did before, and we are going to secure it into the paint, wet it slightly, and rub that in. And then we're just gonna wait for it to dry. And when we come back, we'll peel off a fresh one, and we'll peel off the second time around so you can see the difference, just how it softens. We have got this, let it dry again. So again, we have the ones that we previously used, as well as some fresh ones. So you're gonna see that difference. So I'm just going to wet them again, quickly get them a little bit wet. Even as I wet them, I can see the ones that haven't been used. They're much brighter, and then the ones that have are more faded. And if we are ready. So this one here, again, is the first time using it, and you can see that beautiful bright color, and I haven't wet my paper quite enough, but there we go. All right, so this is the one that we've already used once, and you can see that the color is much more faded, but it's still beautiful and looks very old world. Look at that. Look at those two colors beside each other. The one that's first time use, but the second time use, here we go, first time use, next to the second one. And depending on what you're looking for, this is stunning and soft and beautiful. And I'm gonna do a little section of one of these a third time just on the white so you can see. I did do that on here, and you can just see how faint it is, but this is again on a different color. So they go beautifully over colors, over white. They're just stunning. So this is the final one that we did here, the second one. This is where we did the first inlay application, and here is where we did the second. So you can see it can be done more than once, and it gives that beautiful vintage feel.